promise we only have about 2 hours left, so we're about a third of the way. I'm just kidding. But this is usually the part that people kind of start to, I got it, thanks. This is the part that everything kind of goes over your head, so please feel free to ask questions. We are going paperless, but we did want to make sure that you get this piece of paper, because when you get home tonight and you talk to your child, this will be probably something that you want to look back on. So in terms of Mr. Coleman talked about math, one big thing that we are working in the district and in the school is meeting the needs of all learners. And what we mean by that is that we want to make sure that we have options and choices for kids regardless of where they're at, so that we can challenge them and we can help them learn and grow and be successful. So two different models that you will have at East. One is called Endeavor and one is called Discover. All sixth graders will either be in Discover or Endeavor. So I'll talk about that process. Our math is not part of Discover and Endeavor because there's already different levels and kids are kind of in all different places. So all students on their sixth grade schedule will be in Endeavor or Discover for history, science, language arts, and communication arts. All the other courses, math, electives, lunch, advisory, all of those classes are mixed with kids in Discover and Endeavor. So if you think about it, out of 7 periods, it's 4 periods of their day. Now, for kids, they'll be like, all my friends are in Endeavor, all my friends are in Discover. I never get to see my kids that are in the other model. That is not true. Even though they feel like that, there's still plenty of opportunities for them to hang out with other kids. So as far as Endeavor and Discover, and we'll get into more detail, it's really based around individual readiness, learner preference, and kind of the structure of how your child learns best. So what you will see on the front of your yellow sheet, as our models have kind of evolved over time, if you have a child that went through East probably 4 years ago or later, you may be familiar with our X program. So this has evolved. Discover and Endeavor is not, one is for X, one is not for X or accelerated kids. The really exciting thing about this chart is as we've kind of changed our direction and kind of gone on our journey, there are more things that are in common or similar with Discover and Endeavor than are different. So when we first started Discover, one model had Chromebooks or had technology and one didn't. One was a little bit further ahead with standards-based learning and one wasn't. So truly the real difference when it comes down to Discover and Endeavor is that bottom row. In Endeavor, that's probably more of what you and I are used to in terms of education. So we go to a class for 48 minutes, we rotate to the next class, okay? In Discover, it's a 4-hour flexible block of time. They're with 3 teachers for that full 4 hours, and the students are the ones that are responsible for developing their schedule for the day. Anita and Lindsay are going to kind of talk about that, but when you think about it, that's really the main difference between the two models. There is absolutely personalization in both. There's opportunities for kids to extend. There's opportunities for kids to show learning multiple times. So biggest thing we want you to understand when you leave tonight is one is not better than the other. It's trying to figure out which one is right for your child, and we are all here to help you do that. All right, really quick, and I know Mr. Coleman would not be able to read this, but on the left, it shows you an Endeavor student, okay? So you have a first hour language arts class, 48 minutes. They rotate to science. They go to advisory, they go to facts, they go to comm arts, they go to math, and then they go to U.S. history, okay? So they follow that schedule. Over on the right is a Discover schedule. So you see the kids are blocked for hours 3, 4, 5, and 6. They're with those 3 teachers, but they are the ones that are setting their schedule, okay? And this will make more sense in a minute. Okay, so Lindsay, want to talk Endeavor?
Okay, so Endeavor, as Amy said, is probably what you're used to. So kids come in on a bell schedule. So you can see an example here. If you're following one student, they might have science second hour, then go to their personal wellness or band, go to lunch all together as 6th grade, history, language arts, and so on and so forth. So these classes are 48 minutes. aside from our 90-minute blocks Wednesday, Thursday. And a typical class would be maybe they come in and we do a warm-up to get everybody's brains on track on whatever it is we're learning for the day. Maybe we'll have a seminar, so the teacher is up front giving a lesson to the whole group, and then we might split up into some sort of activity. Maybe it's a group activity or a personal flex, so they're working independently, followed up by maybe an assessment or gathering some evidence of their learning. So it's I would say a more traditional teacher-directed approach. If your learner is someone who benefits from the teacher saying, okay, everybody, we're going to try and do this. And we start out a lot that way, but by the end, even this time of year, we're still personalizing in Endeavor as well. So it's more starts teacher-directed, and we start the day together, and then we kind of go our own paths, what each student needs.
All right, we're going to show you a little bit about every day when our Discover kids come in for currently it's our 3rd hour class. We have 6 sessions offered within that 4-hour chunk of time. And they will be the ones who are deciding what they're going to go to when, for the most part. There's some times where if you see those 3 of 3s or 4 of 4s, as teachers, they haven't attended those sessions, so we'll often lock them into those sessions to make sure that they don't miss out on those things. So there's opportunities for kids to work on different things at different times. So that's just kind of like a little preview. I'll go into it a little bit more right now in the day of the life of a Discover learner. So we all meet together in the Learning Center. Currently we have 90 Discover students, or 88 Discover students, out of about 250 in our 6th graders in our building. And so we all meet in the Learning Center, the 3 teachers, and we go through that schedule with them. We tell them what each of our offerings are going to be, what they're going to do, kind of give them a preview as to what they're going to do. So then each individual learner then would kind of plan for their day. We use the same flex scheduler that they do in advisory, for our win times. So they're very familiar with that. And then they literally plug in a session for their A, B, and all the way through F. And so how this would work is there might be days where I'll have a learner who isn't going to be in my science sessions at all that day because they need to focus on their language arts and their history. There might be days where they're going to do all sessions and less personal flex. So how Discover works is we offer seminars for our 30-minute chunks of time, and then they will kind of devote and kind of plug in time when they can actually work on their activities. So I teach Endeavor as well, so in my Endeavor class, I might do the same, I'll do the same seminar, and now I'll say, okay, here, now it's time for you to apply what we just talked about or what we just were learning. Where in Discover, I'll do the seminar, and then they will choose when they're going to work on that activity or the practice, the skill on their own time, or not on their own time, but later in the day. It might be tomorrow when they're going to get to it. So there's a little bit more flexibility that way. So the students within Discover are going to be those kids, your sons or daughters, who are a little bit more self-directed. They like that independence. They want a little bit more control with their personal schedule. They are often a self-starter, so maybe it's time you have a son or daughter who you don't often have to check in with them, and they get their work done. And so they're going to be and they often are self-advocates, so they'll come in, they'll check in with their teachers. If they have a question, they're not afraid to ask. They will maybe email the teacher the day in advance, or they're emailing when they're gone, those kind of things. So they're more that self-advocate, self-directed, self-starter kind of learner. So that's kind of where the Discover is. I know we had one question earlier, like how does my son or daughter know what they need, like in terms of when, kind of in terms of Discover when they're choosing their sessions. It's a learning process. We talk about it. It's a skill that we learn, or we talk about in advisory at the beginning of the year. In all of our classes, I will, often the teachers will be like, oh, during WIN, I'm offering a coaching workshop. If you know you're one who's struggling on this concept, I encourage you to attend. We might also invite them to come to join us. Same kind of thing happens in Discover. When we offer our coaching workshops, there might be kids that I'll go up and say, I would love for you to join me in this coaching workshop based on a formative that I've done, something along the way that I can tell that they're needing a little bit more practice with a skill. So what are the big differences? So as far as Endeavor goes, we have deadlines and due dates. With that being said, if kids are not getting things on time, we're walking them through all of the, throughout the whole way. However, things happen, and it's about the learning. So we're not taking away points because students are not getting things on time. So we work with them. We have redos, we have retakes because, again, it's about the learning. The whole class in Endeavor, typically we're working on the same learning target at the same time. So for example, in science right now, we're all working on learning target 2.3, states of matter. So we're going through it together, even though students may be working on this piece. Maybe some students are working on the meets level versus the basic level, so we can be a little different in that way, but in general, we're all kind of moving together. In Discover, there's a little bit more flexibility as to where learners are at. So I have some students who are finishing up or still working on their 2.3 learning target. I have others who are moving on to the next learning target. And so there's a little bit more of that independence like I talked about, where if they're ready to go, we're going to move them on. Instead of sometimes where some kids in the Endeavor classes might be kind of sitting there waiting, okay, let's move on, and we provide great opportunities for them to be peer tutors or to extend their learning, to kind of dive a little bit deeper in their learning targets as well. But really the big difference with Discover is that they're working a little bit more at their own pace, and that they get we have more flexible due dates along the way. We give suggested due dates. We will mark things as kind of being overdue, but just like an Endeavor, there's no consequences for it. You might be locked in on a focus flex session here and there to get your work done for us to help you with your learning and keep you moving along. But again, a little bit more flexible due dates. But really it's the learner prioritizing what they need to work on and when they want to get it done. So if they know that they have that a summative assessment for science coming up and they want to devote their personal flex time to work on that science, then they can do that. If they are wanting to work on their language arts book project, they can do that. So it's a little bit more of that prioritizing and signing up for what they need throughout their day.